begin today's vlog with a quote. I came across this quote back in 2021 when I went through a very sudden change in my life, and this quote hit me square between the eyes because it was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. It says, "Times change, people change, situations change, relationships change. The only thing constant is change." I couldn't find who originally said this quote, but it was shared by another speaker that I really admire, Holly Hoffman. And it's an extension of a famous quote by a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus, who says, "The only constant in life is change." Wow, how true is that? No matter what we go through, no matter what happens, we're going to experience change. It's one of the few things in life that are guaranteed. Now, I've been through so much change in my life. You think I'd be really good at it, but I'm not. I have never liked change. It's always been really hard for me. I like comfort. I like routine. And when I have change, I tend to resist it. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you some things that I've learned over the years that have helped me deal better with change and learn to adjust and be more resilient when changes come up in my life. So when I saw that quote back in 2021, like I said, I was going through a big change in my life. Someone who worked for me was leaving, and I had a really hard time with that adjustment. It was a change that I was not expecting and was really surprised by it. I was so shaken by this change that I saw a counselor to really help me deal with it. And in my situation, I've seen a lot of caregivers that have to leave. And it's hard on me because these caregivers become part of my family and I get so close to them. But this counselor helped me realize that change is a good thing. And that when one person left, I had to trust that the next right person would be there. And that helped me so much to realize and be able to adjust better with change. This is something that happens frequently in my world. So I've endeavored ever since to handle change like this better. Now, there's nothing wrong with liking comfort and routine, but we also need to learn to grow in our ability to experience change so that when change does happen, we handle it better. Think of examples of big changes in your life: relationships, jobs, schools, moving. Maybe you've made changes to how you eat or how you stay active, and these new habits have taken time to adjust to. Perhaps someone you care about moved away, or a coworker you really like left the company that you work at. All of these are examples of change, big or small. And while they're not always fun to experience, they're a part of life. So something to think about as you face an unwelcome change is how you've handled change in the past and how everything worked out the way it was supposed to. I look back on my life and think of times that I worried and fretted and was very anxious about a change that was happening in my life. But now when I look back, I see that it all worked out. All that time spent worrying was just wasted time and energy. I even lost sleep over things that in the end were just not that big of a deal. Now I can see that when one door closes, another one opens. I believe that God has a plan for my life and has everything figured out, and it gives me so much comfort to believe that. Another strategy to help with change is to remember that we're stronger than we realize. Bob Marley once said, "You never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice." Fearing change is usually just a sign that we're comfortable. But more than anything else, I know that we are all resilient people. When they first told me that I was going to use a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I thought, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. There's no way I can live through that. And look at me now. I love my life. I was comfortable in my own life, but I had no idea what was in store. If you would have told me when I had my accident that I would end up embracing my life the way that I have, that I would be thankful for this life change that I went through, I would not have believed you. But we are all stronger than we think we are. You are stronger than you realize. You can get through this. Another example is when I had to spend time in the hospital a number of years ago. I was told that I needed to be in the hospital for 6 weeks and thought, I can never interrupt my life that long. That's going to be too hard. But I came out of that hospital stronger and more resilient. I learned that I could handle whatever circumstances were thrown my way, and I just needed to shift my attitude to be more positive. I ended up getting to go home after 4 weeks instead of 6, and even cried when I left because I had met so many wonderful people and learned so much in that time. So again, this reminded me that no matter what change I faced, it would work out. The same goes for relationships. Whenever I've experienced romantic relationships that ended, I've had a hard time with that change at first, and many times wanted to go back because of comfort, but later could see that things worked out for the best. If I had stayed in those relationships, I would have never met my awesome husband, Doug. Now, I think that sometimes we fear change because we fear failure or disappointment. But remember, failure is not a bad thing. It's learning. If we go through life not doing anything because we're afraid to learn or afraid to fail, we wouldn't accomplish much at all. I think back at everything I've accomplished in my life so far. Learning to drive, going to college, graduating with 2 degrees, building my home, writing my books, meeting and marrying Doug, becoming a professional speaker. All of these came with a healthy dose of fear and worry about change. But if I had let fear stop me, where would I be today? I would not have had these accomplishments, and the same is true for you. Everything you've accomplished took change, and you were probably afraid when you started, but look how things turned out. I'm guessing you could say that most of them have turned out for the better. And even if they didn't, you probably learned something in the midst of that, which makes it worth it in the long run. Am I right? Sometimes changes aren't good. Sometimes changes are really hard, like a death of a loved one, getting a difficult health diagnosis, or a financial setback. But I firmly believe that even when we face negative changes, that we can still find life lessons in all those challenges, and we can get through them. So even though change doesn't always mean that things will be better or get better, change does give us the chance to live better if we allow them to. We could allow bitterness or anger or frustration or shame to take over, but we don't have to let those things get to us. This is where I recommend that you see a counselor or a therapist if you're struggling with this, because some of these things are really hard to get out of on your own. If you can identify with any of those feelings that I just listed, please seek out a counselor that can help you push through this. It will help you so much and help you move through this quicker than if you try to do it on your own. This is also where the power of forgiveness is so important, and why it's important to focus on gratitude and what we're grateful for in our lives. Even when we're going through something hard, we can still choose to make the most out of every day. And one way to do that is to write out 3 things every morning that you're grateful for, and 3 things every night that you're grateful for. This simple habit can help you push through the negative feelings that you are having about the change that you're experiencing, and come out on the other side stronger and healthier. And so if you're facing a change right now, I empathize with you. I know it's not easy. We are all a work in progress, myself included. No one can honestly say they love change. But I think that the more we go through in life and the more changes we experience, we can learn to adapt and be resilient to changes. Life is too short, and none of us will live forever. Life is fleeting, so we have to make the most of every second that we have on this earth. So we have to keep moving forward, realizing that change is a part of life, and by embracing change, we are building our skills of resilience along the way. So I'll finish up today by sharing another story that might help you if you're experiencing a change in schools in the fall, and it might make you laugh. Growing up in Ellsworth, Wisconsin, we all had pretty small schools. K through 6 was all in one building, junior high, grades 7 through 9, and high school was grades 10 through 12. And on the last day of 6th grade, my friend and I hid behind the door going out of the school and just sat there crying. We were so scared. We didn't want to leave. We didn't want to go to junior high school and have different teachers and new classes and more homework. We felt so much pressure and fear about that change. But then on the first day of junior high, I remember thinking, wow, that wasn't so bad. I know where my classes are. I remembered my locker combination. Wow, I spent so much time worrying about this, and this wasn't hard at all. When I was going into 10th grade and entering high school, I looked back and remembered that even though this new school was going to be scary, I had done it before, and I could do it again. There were so many good things that came from going into junior high school, so I just needed to remind myself that there were going to be so many good things ahead of me as I embraced change again and entered high school. There are lots of scary things about change, whether it's a small change or a big life change. But if we can take things one day at a time and trust that you're strong enough to make it through, it won't be that bad. I promise. Everyone makes mistakes and things don't always go as planned, but as long as you can say, I did my best, and tomorrow is a new day, you're going to be all right. So remember how things worked out in the past, and I hope that this helps you embrace change in the future. So thanks so much for tuning in today. Please leave me a comment about change that you went through, that you were scared about, but it ended up working out for the better. I would love to hear your stories. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.